You've been eating the healthy foods, reading labels, buying probiotics, maybe even drinking green smoothies every morning, and yet your stomach still feels heavy. You wake up bloated. Your energy crashes by afternoon. Some days your skin flares up for no obvious reason. Other days your brain feels wrapped in fog. You keep wondering what you're doing wrong. Here's the part nobody talks about. What if the foods you trust the most are quietly damaging the very system that's supposed to protect you? Not overnight, not dramatically, cell by cell. Most people blame their gut only after they feel pain. But your gut starts losing its balance long before symptoms appear. And by the time your body speaks loudly, the damage has often been building for months, sometimes years. It wasn't a lack of discipline. Your body was responding exactly as it was designed to. The real problem is that your gut is less like a simple tube and more like a living city. Trillions of bacteria work around the clock. Some repair your intestinal lining. Others train your immune system. Many even help produce neurotransmitters that influence your mood. When this city is healthy, everything flows. When it begins falling apart, nothing feels quite right. Harvard researchers and scientists around the world continue to uncover how deeply the gut microbiome influences nearly every organ in the body. The surprising part is that the first signs rarely begin inside your stomach. They often begin in your brain, your skin, your metabolism. Stay with me, because this changes everything. The first food might already be sitting in your kitchen. Artificial sweeteners, I know, that sounds strange. They contain almost no calories, so they seem harmless. But several studies suggest certain artificial sweeteners can shift the balance of gut bacteria in ways that may affect glucose regulation and microbial diversity. Think of your gut as a massive construction site. The good bacteria are the repair crew. Artificial sweeteners don't necessarily destroy the workers overnight. Instead, they confuse the communication system. The wrong crews begin showing up. The right crews slowly disappear. Most people never realize this because the symptoms arrive quietly. More cravings, less satisfaction after meals, strange digestive discomfort. The goal isn't simply removing artificial sweeteners. You have to replace them with something your microbial city actually recognizes. Fermented yogurt with live cultures, plain kefir, small amounts of naturally fermented vegetables. These foods introduce living microbes instead of confusing existing ones, and that's where everything changes. The second hidden troublemaker looks innocent. Ultra-processed breakfast cereals, bright boxes, heart symbols, added vitamins. They appear healthy because nutrients were added back after processing. But here's what they didn't expect. Your gut doesn't judge food by the vitamin label. It judges structure. Many processed cereals are stripped of natural fiber before refined starches race through digestion. That rapid digestion creates repeated insulin spikes while starving beneficial bacteria of the complex fibers they actually depend on. Here's the critical thing to understand. Beneficial bacteria of the complex fibers they actually depend on. Here's the critical thing to understand. Scientists studying longevity have become fascinated by it because activating AMPK often shifts the body toward repair instead of storage. Imagine the city suddenly losing electricity. Emergency systems activate. Repair crews become efficient. Resources stop being wasted. That's AMPK. But highly refined foods keep flooding the system with easy fuel, leaving those repair signals quieter than they should be. The replacement is surprisingly simple. Steel-cut oats, chia seeds, ground flaxseed, cooked and cooled oats that develop resistant starch. These don't just feed you, they feed the invisible workers protecting your gut lining. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. The third food isn't sweet, it isn't processed. Many people even call it healthy. Certain highly processed seed oil fried foods. The issue isn't the seed itself, it's repeated high-temperature frying. Oxidized fats formed during repeated heating may increase oxidative stress and inflammatory signaling, placing extra pressure on the gut barrier. Imagine smoke filling our construction site. The workers can still move, they just can't see clearly anymore. Inflammation spreads, repairs slow down, and then researchers started noticing something even more surprising. One tiny protein sitting between your intestinal cells began behaving very differently. That protein may decide whether unwanted substances stay inside your gut or slip into your bloodstream. And once that happens, everything changes. That tiny protein is called zonulin. Most people have never heard its name, but it may explain why one unhealthy meal doesn't always make you sick, while months of the wrong food slowly change everything. Think of your intestinal lining as a brick wall. The intestinal cells are the bricks. Zonulin controls the tiny gates between them. When everything is balanced, those gates open only when they should. Nutrients enter. Harmful substances stay out. But here's the part nobody talks about. Repeated stress from highly processed foods, chronic inflammation, and poor dietary patterns may increase zonulin activity in some people. Those gates become less selective. Larger particles can slip through, forcing your immune system to react. It wasn't because your body was overreacting. Your body was protecting you. Here's where everything changes. The fourth hidden enemy is processed meat eaten every day, not an occasional serving, the daily habit. Many processed meats contain preservatives and compounds that, in large amounts over time, may promote inflammation and alter the balance of gut bacteria. Think of it like sending exhaust fumes into your healthy city every single morning. One day changes very little. Years change the landscape. The fifth food is one almost nobody suspects. Too much alcohol. Your liver feels the impact first. Your gut feels it quietly. Alcohol can weaken the protective mucus layer covering your intestinal lining, making it harder for beneficial bacteria to thrive while allowing less helpful microbes to multiply. What happened next surprised researchers. The inflammation doesn't stay in your gut. Chemical messengers begin traveling throughout the body. That's why some people notice fatigue, poor sleep, slower recovery, or brain fog long before they ever complain about digestion. The sixth hidden problem is surprisingly common: constant sugary drinks. Even fruit-flavored ones. Large amounts of rapidly absorbed sugar feed bacteria that thrive on excess simple carbohydrates while leaving fiber-loving microbes with almost nothing to eat. It's like feeding weeds while forgetting the garden. Eventually, the weeds win. The seventh food isn't really a food at all. It's the habit of eating almost no fiber. Your gut bacteria survive on what you leave behind, not what you absorb. When they don't receive enough fermentable fiber, they produce fewer short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Here's what changes everything. Butyrate is one of the favorite fuels for the cells lining your colon. It helps maintain the intestinal barrier and supports a healthy inflammatory response. No fiber. Less butyrate. Weaker repairs. That's the chain reaction. So what should your day actually look like? Start your morning with plain Greek yogurt or kefir, steel-cut oats, chia seeds, ground flaxseed, and a handful of berries. Why? Because you immediately introduce beneficial microbes while feeding them with prebiotic fiber instead of refined sugar. At midday, build your meal around beans, lentils, chickpeas, vegetables, extra virgin olive oil, and a source of lean protein like salmon or grilled chicken. Why? These foods deliver diverse fibers, polyphenols, and omega-3 fats that help beneficial bacteria produce compounds like butyrate while supporting a healthier inflammatory balance. In the afternoon, if you're hungry, reach for an apple with a handful of walnuts or almonds. Why? The fiber slows digestion, while the healthy fats improve satiety and reduce the urge for highly processed snacks. In the evening, fill half your plate with colorful vegetables. Add cooked and cooled potatoes or brown rice for resistant starch, alongside fish, tofu, or legumes. Why? Cooling certain starches increases resistant starch, giving your gut microbes another overnight meal while you sleep. And here's one small habit with an outsized impact. Aim for about a 12-hour overnight eating break. For example, finishing dinner at 7 p.m. and eating breakfast at 7 a.m. Why? It gives your digestive system time to complete much of its work before the next wave of food arrives, supporting normal gut rhythms. None of these changes work because they're magical. They work because they stack. One meal becomes one day. One day becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes a healthier microbial city that's better equipped to protect you. Your body was never asking for perfection. It was asking for the right signals, repeated often enough that repair could finally outpace damage. And once that begins, everything from your digestion to your energy can start moving in a different direction. But here's the question almost nobody asks. If your gut bacteria can influence your brain, could the foods you eat every morning be shaping your mood before your day even begins? In the next episode, we'll uncover the surprising gut-brain connection and reveal the everyday breakfast habits that may be quietly stealing your focus, memory, and emotional resilience. The story doesn't stop inside your stomach. In fact, one of the biggest discoveries in modern biology is that your gut and your brain are in constant conversation, every second, even while you're sleeping. And here's the shocking part. Most of those messages don't travel from your brain to your gut. They travel the other way around. Think of your gut as the headquarters and your brain as the executive office. If headquarters keeps sending emergency signals, eventually the executive office starts making decisions based on stress instead of balance. That's why researchers now call the gut the second brain. Not because it can think like your brain, but because it contains its own nervous system, known as the enteric nervous system, with hundreds of millions of neurons communicating through the vagus nerve. Here's the part nobody talks about. About 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Serotonin is often called the feel-good chemical, but it also helps regulate digestion, sleep, and communication between the gut and the brain. If the gut environment becomes unhealthy, those signals can change. That's why poor gut health isn't always felt as stomach pain. Sometimes it feels like low motivation, poor concentration, unexplained anxiety, or waking up tired after a full night's sleep. It wasn't because you lacked willpower. Your biology was sending distress signals. Stay with me, because this changes everything. Scientists at institutions like Harvard and Stanford continue to study how the gut microbiome influences inflammation throughout the body. One pathway receiving enormous attention involves short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. When beneficial bacteria ferment fiber, they produce butyrate. Butyrate doesn't just nourish your colon, it also helps maintain the gut barrier and supports communication with your immune system. Imagine thousands of tiny repair workers patching microscopic cracks before they become major problems. That's what butyrate does every day, unless it runs out. And here's where it gets dark. When your diet is filled with ultra-processed foods and low in fiber, those repair workers slowly disappear. The damage doesn't happen all at once. That's why it's so easy to ignore. Until one day, your body starts whispering through fatigue, then speaking through inflammation, and eventually shouting through disease. The encouraging news, your microbiome is surprisingly adaptable. Many studies suggest measurable changes in gut bacteria can begin within days of improving diet. Not years, days. That's incredibly hopeful, because every healthy meal sends a different message to your cells. Every serving of fiber feeds another generation of beneficial bacteria. Every fermented food introduces new allies. Every night of better digestion prepares your body for a stronger tomorrow. Your future health isn't determined by one perfect meal. It's built by thousands of ordinary choices that quietly compound over time. That's the real secret to longevity. Not chasing miracle supplements, not searching for one superfood, but creating an environment where your own body can finally do what it was designed to do: repair, protect, renew. And here's something that may surprise you even more. There's one everyday drink millions of people consume every morning that can either strengthen your gut or silently disrupt it, depending on exactly how and when you drink it. The science behind that is fascinating and completely misunderstood.